Temagami is a tiny town with a population of only 800 located in northeastern Ontario. It is a well-conserved natural space with rivers, lakes, and waterfalls, abundant wildlife, and notable old-growth forests. In the current day, it is a gem of a location for campers, canoers, and anyone looking to enjoy the outdoors. Despite its small size, it is mighty and has profound historic significance. Temagami is a discrete piece of Ontario's Canadian Shield. It is a serene and untouched landscape. However, this was not the case for Temagami in the year of 1989. 1989 brought chaos and unrest to a usually peaceful place. The Temagami forest blockades were a battle fought between First Nations and environmentalists looking to conserve the forest, opposed by logging companies looking to profit off the red and white pines that grow here. The Temagami Anishinaabe reside in Temagami and have called the region their home for long before logging companies existed. But with the rise of government and capital, extracting the natural resources became the primary interest, and respecting the forests and the biodiversity that they supported took a back seat. The Indigenous people aiming to protect the area were villainized. An article from 1997 by Laurie Goulet quoted Woodbecker, a leader of these blockades, expressing his concern about what happened. He says, "The only right we have as Aboriginal people to the land is basically to protect it. We don't own it. The Creator didn't give us this land to own it, and we're here to share this land with those who are here." There was frustration behind many of his words in the article, which is understandable seeing as this conflict resulted in the arrest of many people, simply doing the same thing as him, protecting the earth. Eric White wrote a CBC article in 2018 where he interviewed people of Temagami decades after the event, and the First Nations people were still emotional about the blockades. White also played devil's advocate in the article by giving the owner of the logging company, Mark Goulard, a voice, which he used to explain how it was very difficult for many of his employees and they went time without receiving their paychecks. He also said, "Most of the people that are not into logging think it's very simple, but it's very complex." Red Squirrel Road appears as no more than an unkept dirt road through Temagami, but in reality it is the home of the blockades, and would not appear the way it does in the modern day if not for protesters of the deforestation. The plan was for the ministry to extend Red Squirrel Road further through the forest to allow for logging trucks to be able to access the forest more easily. Previously, the logging company transported logs by floating them down rivers, but with modernized technology and means of transport, they could begin to log forests that were more inland, creating more options and more profit. Unluckily for the logging companies, the protesters made these plans impossible, combating not only the people working with the logging companies, but also the authorities. As mentioned, many people were arrested, approximately 300, but they did not go down easily. Protesters put themselves in front of trucks and chained themselves to machinery, risking their own safety to provide security to the trees. Not only is this an environmental issue and concern to keeping an old-growth forest that is useful for capturing carbon and lays out a foundation for biodiversity, including organisms from animals and insects to simpler things like plants, fungi, lichens, and beyond, it is a space that can be used to advance science and knowledge, as said by Elaine Flaherty in her 1990 article, where she says, "Aside from aesthetic reasons for preserving the towering pines, are the arguments that old growth must be saved because it is a crucial part of the ecosystem, and because it gives scientists a chance to study how a forest grows when man does not interfere." It was an economic issue from multiple sides. It created a problem for the logging company to be able to do the work and earn the money they needed, but if they had gone through with the logging, the land may not be a desirable tourist destination, and there would not be the same natural space for locals to do things such as hunting, which they were accustomed to. An issue that stood at the creation of this country, and is still prominent today, that made itself quite obvious in the Temagami forest blockades, is the injustice done to First Nations people. Their land and rights were disrespected during the blockades, as the authorities supported the logging company and arrested the First Nations in this tumultuous time. Neither side was 100% satisfied at the end of the day, but the forest was able to remain its authentically peaceful way. It was seen through the Temagami forest blockade that peace cannot come without action.